I got involved with Occupy Oakland the first day of the first camp. And I have been a part of organizing some of the actions that have come out of it. And I've also organized with some of the groups that were sort of born out of Occupy Oakland but are autonomous from it.
What do you think is the most important thing about the movement?
Well, I think that's a really big question. I mean, I think the most important thing that we should be working on is developing relationships with each other. I think the biggest threat to the movement so far has been infighting, tearing each other down, splitting apart. It's a really effective counterinsurgency strategy that we're implementing on ourselves.
What do you think would help with this?
Well, one of the things that kept people together in Occupy Oakland and made it such a force to be reckoned with in the days of the camp was having the kitchen committee and having a kitchen that was feeding people 24 hours a day. I think that having people working together to meet each other's needs is really the best way to develop a relationship and put us in a situation where we're prepared to look out for one another when it gets really heavy. And that's one of the reasons that I've been working with the Assembly of the Unemployed, because what we're working on is developing sort of a solidarity network where people are taking care of each other and meeting each other's needs to improve rather than to undo the condition of unemployment, which is to get people jobs, to improve the condition of being unemployed, to make it so that we can live well without jobs.
Well, now that most of the camps have dispersed or have been broken up by police with apparently federal government coordination, how do you see the movement now? Do you think the movement is dead? Is it over? Is it sort of gestating through a cold winter? Or what are the next steps, and what is the movement doing to get ready for the next resurgence?
Well, I mean, I think that it's okay for us to let go of the Occupy brand. What we found is that things that were not so obscure and foreign to our minds, 9 months ago when we were first occupying spaces, are now really drastic militant actions. To have an occupation of a space for a day or two is now a militant action, whereas before it wasn't that big of a deal to set up tents until the police came in with a lot of repression. So I think it's okay to let go of this brand of Occupy and develop new tactics. I mean, we can also keep it. That's fine. I think this adherence to the brand is really folly on our parts, though. I think we should be focused on the movement. Revolutionary movements come in waves. Every movement that we've seen that's been successful has had waves where, the movement expands, as you saw on November 2nd, tons and tons of people in the street, and contracts. And as you see now, we have smaller groups. We also have more dedicated people. I think the key to building in this time of contraction with these really dedicated people who've been put through the ringer and developed a lot of skills in the last 9 months, some of whom weren't even radicalized before they came, but now are, top-notch organizers. I think what we should be doing is developing community, doing outreach, creating the base work. People in Oakland were really lucky to sort of stumble on a space that already had that work being done with the Oscar Grant movements, with the Black Panthers, throughout the gang injunctions movements. That work was already done for us, and now it's time for us to really be getting, and some of us worked on those things too, but as a group, a lot of us weren't necessarily here. It's time for us to get our hands dirty in doing that base building work. That's what we should be working on, so that we're that much stronger, so that the next wave that comes forward is successful. I think Occupy actually does have a lot of revolutionary potential, whether it keeps the name or not. The thing is that, if we talk about whether or not it's dead and should we give it up, I think that we're really being defeatist. Is it transforming is really the question, and if so, how can we keep the momentum behind it?
Okay, I'll agree with you. That is the question. What is your answer?
Well, like I said, I would say a lot of base building work, working with people in the communities, people who are poor and people who are working class. They're working constantly. I can speak for myself and say that it was really, really difficult. I had to sacrifice a lot to be at Occupy events, to be organizing with Occupy Oakland, working, commuting, scraping by, getting the labor done at home, taking care of my kid. These things were really difficult. That's true for everybody. And they don't have the time and the space to be in the movement. We need to find a new way to bring it to people who haven't been able to participate in it before, because they're the people that have the biggest stake in what we're doing, right? I mean, they're us, but they're also lots of people. We are workers and workers are us. The thing is expanding it and bringing it to places where other people can participate in it and have a real buy-in. You know, they're not showing up because somebody got hit with a tear gas canister or a rubber bullet. They're showing up because they have a real stake in what's going to happen in the future.
My name's Ed Bio, B-I-O-W. I'm volunteer with Occupy Oakland. I've been providing food support for about 6 months now, I guess, and it's you know, I show up at events and provide food for general assemblies and demonstrations, and generally out of my own pocket, you know, because I'm relatively comfortable, you know, more or less retired, and you know, just participating in the movement in one way that I can. I was kind of inspired by other people who had a hell of a lot less resources than I did, who were doing a heck of a lot more, who got busted by the cops, and issued stay-away orders from Oscar Grant Plaza, where we had a vigil for about 3 months that survived the breakup of the second encampment, and I thought somebody has got to feed people after the main food person got the stay-away order, and so I started providing food about 3 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week for folks, and I just got, you know, kept in it even after the vigil, you know, the kind of the successor to the encampment, was finally broken up after months of police raids and dozens of arrests.
So why did the first food provider get the stay-away order?
Well, I think they were targeting people who they thought were especially effective, but also he was, you know, I really don't want to speak about the specifics of his case, but he was arrested during a demonstration over a series of mass arrests. Towards the end of last year, I think on January 30th, they came on Friday nights and they just scooped up, you know, 12 or 15 people, and then they would hold them until, well, in that case, Monday was the first, so they didn't have to be arraigned until Tuesday, so they basically would hold people in jail for 4 days, and then on January 4th they did the same thing the next Friday, and they arrested another dozen or so people, and we were pretty pissed off. That was the genesis of the FTP, fuck the police marches that started happening. People were just outraged that, you know, corporations can spend as much money as they want buying television stations and advertisements, and we can't have a card table up in a public square. We, you know, if we put down, you know, if we try and feed people or just have any of our possessions that touch the ground, they were coming in and arresting us. I was there one evening when, on January 1st, when 20 cop cars came rolling up East 14th, and they broke out their riot gear, and I'd set up a few computers so people could, you know, check their email and their Facebook pages or whatever, and so I was busy like throwing computers into bags and folding up tables and running away, and you know, they came in and they busted about a dozen good people, and so he was at a demonstration the next day, and they claimed that he was doing something illegal, and they gave him a stay-away order. They took his smartphone away, which he'd just gotten, and they didn't return it for months, and they held him on $10,000 bail. And so, you know, I just decided, you know, I needed to be more active. I'd been bringing food some, but, you know, I had a vehicle. I had, you know, folding tables and stuff for camping, and, you know, I had big pots, so I just started.
My name is Leela, and I'm born and raised in the East Bay. I've spent some time in Oakland and some time in West Berkeley, and I'm currently in West Oakland, and I am focused on volunteering and doing community work around alternative transportation, food politics, food scarcity, dependency on money in the economic system, and consumerism, and specifically food sovereignty around people growing their own food and becoming independent from the food system that exists right now.
Great. And what is your connection with Occupy Oakland?
I was present at camp 2 weeks into camp, So I was there every day, and I treated it like my full-time job. And then since then, well, I worked in the kitchen, and since then, since the camp was raided, I've been one of the main coordinators for the kitchen, and where we do meals at every political event through Occupy Oakland and beyond, and we do a lot of food distribution as well. And I also work on various garden projects within the community. I help out with foreclosure and finance and a few other things, legal defense, when I can.
You do a lot of stuff, huh?
Well, I mean, there's never enough time, but I do my best to, try to keep things organized.
The public, whoever might be viewing this on San Francisco Indie Media, what's the most important thing for them to understand and to do?
I would say go out into your community, talk to your neighbors, try to do positive things, ask people on your block what their main concerns are and what are the big stresses that they're dealing with right now, specifically around the ever-growing poverty that we're living in a first world rich country that the United States is, and really start opening up the dialogue and start trying to organize in small groups and do positive actions. And that's starting gardens, that's creating programs with on your block, and that's doing food distribution, feeding others, that's getting in contact with the right political groups to join actions and do larger organizing with what you feel like is an important issue for you.